What's up, y'all? I'm about to go run some errands. We're gonna do this Scorpio full moon part 2, because we're coming out of the full moon, and the moon is gonna start moving into Sagittarius. It already started moving into Sagittarius, but we're not quite there yet. But I want to do a part 2 to the whole thing, and in between time, I want to just send a message to weed enthusiasts, marijuana enthusiasts, because you know, I'm getting older. I'm trying to focus on my health, focus on the health of my lungs, focus on the health of my, on my heart health, focus on my vascularity, making sure that I'm functional, that I'm able to actually access my athletic abilities whenever I really need to, because the world is tough enough. You gotta be able to, you need to be able to exercise, get yourself stronger. The economy is getting worse, so these jobs are becoming more rigorous, especially blue collar jobs. You need, just walking up and down the stairs, you need your strength. You need your strength, and you need your full capabilities, But even during this healing journey, and I have been, I want to say, a couple months now without smoke. I might have had like a little smoke here in between. Now, I didn't say that I don't indulge in marijuana. I just been doing it a different way. I've been focusing on edibles, things of that nature, because well, specifically I put it in a tea form. When you do it that way, when you extract the THC into an oil, it becomes 11-hydroxy. I'll explain that in another video. But there's actually very cleansing and body healing properties that are in the oil solutions that come from the marijuana. You understand what I'm saying? I've been doing a lot of that to actually heal myself from the years and years and years of just toking and smoking, and but today I would like a nice little smoke. So I rolled a little J, just a little teeny one, because I just felt a little inspired. I want to see some smoke. I want to start pushing it even more, out of my system. But today I wanted to indulge just a little bit, a little teeny tiny small little J. I still made my tea. I made my 11-hydroxy. But I wanted a little smoke, just a little something. All right, y'all. So let's get into this. Let's get into this part 2 of the Scorpio moon. So dealing with the two fixed signs. I didn't really touch on this last time, but dealing with the two fixed signs, dealing with Taurus and the Sun, and then we got Taurus and the Sun, and then we have Scorpio in the full moon. You know, that's square energy. Square energy. The square was the energy that we utilized to even make something relevant, to add its own individuality, you know, because when you squared yourself off into the world, you created a circumference around you. You isolated yourself. You do this spiritually and you do this physically. You do it spiritually and physically, you know. When you isolate something, you're creating its own individual space for it to exist within. But in order to do so, simultaneously you're blocking other things out from your inner circle or inner square. You're blocking things out. So by default, you know, you're creating a circumstance to where as you may have natural differences, natural disagreements, you know, different ways of seeing things. You know, there's less relatability there because you are within a realm of existence, or you're experiencing by default an aspect of your reality that is different from everything else experiencing simultaneously at the same time that you are. You understand? So bringing that into full circle, whenever you're dealing with square energy, because of the natural aspect of the fact that we're at a level of separation and we're able to see things from different perspectives, and we're honoring our own individuality, thus the frustrating learning experience is presented, because what's inevitable is that you still may be put in a circumstance, or there are going to be circumstances that force you to have to come together for the greater good. Not just with you and another person, place, or thing, but just even within yourself, because you have contradicting energies within yourself. You have to learn how to deal with your own self in those aspects of life. Right? So as you're learning how to deal with self and how you're learning how to deal with other people, you can notice that, hey, you know, the way that I like to do things is different than the way this person likes to do things. The way I go about things is different than how this person goes about things. The things that I like is different from this person, and things I hate is different from this person. How the fuck we supposed to work together, you know? And then, you know, you start trying to think of the other person and the things that they can do for you, the things that they can't do for you, so on and so forth. So looking at Scorpio, looking at Taurus, right? Let's look at these two fixed aspects, because they are very fixated on their own ways of going about their element. You know, Taurus, very fixated on wanting to see and experience people, places, and things revolving around its own way of gaining or maintaining stability. You know? What's important? Why is it important? And is it helping us be more stable than what we were? You know, sometimes Tauruses can be so fixated, or the Taurus energy in of itself can be so fixated that there is a natural lack, or there can appear to be a lack of camaraderie. You know, you may know a Taurus that loves you to death, but you know damn sure when they don't love you. You may know a Taurus, like, and all the things that they appreciate, because Venus is there, right? They know how to show their appreciation for the things that they love, right? They know damn well how to not show appreciation too, right? You see very quickly the things that they are stubborn towards, whether it be positive or negative. You see the stubbornness and how fixated on that aspect of stabilization, whether it be a building, whether it be a person, even if it's just a material object. You will see immediately how fixated that person is on it, because that's probably all that they want to be associated with. That's all they talk about. That's all that they find themselves dealing with. You know, so Taurus is not that they don't love, because they do love. They're just they were created for the purpose of representing a 3D object in of itself. They literally represent the 3D object. So think about it this way: if a Capricorn is initiating and creating ways on how to create an object, and a Virgo is trying to help actually go about building the object, then the Taurus is literally the object. And that's how you should see all modalities. Look at them all from that same perspective. The cardinal sign is like the architect of that element. They are the purest form of that object. They initiate, they create the blueprint of that object. The mutable sign carries out the task, sees it through, fixed sign actually represents what it actually is by the time it's done being manufactured. Let's take a minute and look at Scorpio. Scorps. Scorps are interesting. Scorps are interesting because as a Scorp, hold on. It's a nice day. As a Scorp, y'all gotta remember that Scorps, they are the deep emotion, right? So what happens when you go, what happened when, because Scorpio's a water sign, right? What happens when the water gets so deep to the point where it's just froze and cold, you know, because the deeper that you go, the more that heat has escaped from the depths of the water. Now, I'm not talking about when you get all the way down to the Earth's crust, because it can heat up. But let's just think for a second, because we're talking about something that's fixated, something that wants to box itself off and be an individual, right? So before we look at the whole entire ocean, just think about a small body of water, and it has a level of depth to it. The deeper that you go, it's probably not going to be as warm as the top of that body of water, or the surface of that body of water where the sun can touch it. It's further away, so it's colder. Now you have to look at Scorpios that same way, right? You know, even scorpions, they like to bury themselves deep into the sand, right? To cool themselves off and things of that nature. Well, and then they hide, you know, so your emotions, the emotions are hidden in a way. They're hidden. You know, this person almost is hiding their emotions from their own self. Now they feel, but they don't, they're so insecure about the feeling in of itself. They're so insecure about the feeling of itself. Sometimes they don't want to feel the insecurity. They don't want to know that others see them as insecure. They don't want to know these things. They don't want to experience these things. You know, they want a surety that they want insurance that they are in stealth mode and they're focused. You know, they're projecting that they're focused on being protected, and that's that stinger part. That's the defense part. That's the Mars portion of Scorpios, you know, because you're not supposed to see how calculated they are. You can tell that they calculated. They come across Scorpios almost come across left brain, you know. Taurus is actually our left brain, but Scorpios come across as if they're left brain because of the ways in which they go about trying to process their emotions. And I talked about the influence of Saturn in the last video. The influence of Saturn in the sign of Scorpio. If you ever look at the glyph of Scorpio, whenever the glyphics is drawn out of Scorpio, just like Virgo, it's like an M, but it has a stinger at the bottom. The M of the glyph represents the spiritual loops, the spiritual aspects of transformation that the person has to go through. But it's not all just straight flat out spirituality, but it's physical as well too. So it's like spirituality meets physicality, and all the stages of transformation one has to go through, but by way of going within, because it's water, right? So water is here. Water is an internal element in of itself. Water gives the perception of reflection, because the viscosity of water is able to bend in on itself. It's able to bend in on itself. So it's able to reflect back out the light that is shined upon it. And thus here we are in living flesh, able to actually take the light that is shined down and create something physical out of it by having its photons and the neutrons and everything, by having it crash into itself, basically. No, that's real deep. But long story short, that's how it works. But going back to Scorpio and how all of that applies, I just want y'all to peep game and understand what y'all looking at. Because what you're looking at is two elements that are by modality doing the same thing. However, it's difficult for them to completely communicate to each other because their natures are a little different. They can get down with each other though, because Tauruses are fixated on that object, that person, place, or that physical thing that makes them feel stable. Remember, the moon is exalted in Taurus. So, like Cancers, Tauruses have that innate thing about themselves that, they feel the tide of emotions. They feel the weight of the emotion. But because they're an earth sign, they're always trying to add logic and practicality to whatever is surrounding around that object. Even if it's themselves, they always try to make it practical, and they get that from Capricorns. They need to make these aspects make sense. Don't make dollars, it don't make sense. If I can't touch it, if I can't taste it, if I can't smell it, what is it? Does it even exist? If my eyeballs if I can't make it tangible. But unlike Virgos, where they're trying to actually make this happen, and they're trying to help create these circumstances. Unlike Capricorns, where they're helping create these circumstances, Tauruses actually are the end result of the circumstance. They actually are the end result. So sometimes it may play out as selfishness. It may play out as if they don't see anything else but what's in front of them. Unless they have decided that it is important enough to pay it mind. And that's for all fixed signs. Now, just apply the modality. Scorpios, they're fixated on their emotions. It's like how Tauruses are fixated on their person, place, or thing. Scorpios are fixated on the emotion, but so much so that they're trying to like almost resemble something earthly, something logical, because sometimes they fear their own emotions because they understand where emotions can land them. They understand what emotions can do. They understand the power of emotions. You know, they understand how easy it is to lose control. And by default, what it takes to gain control. And that's why Mars is home in Scorpio. Because just like Aries, they know how to tap into just enough selfishness. And selfishness is not always a bad thing. Selfishness is not always bad. But they understand, because of experiencing loss or experiencing gain, just how much they need to, how much of that Mars energy, how much of that sexual energy, how much of that aggressive energy, how much of that transformative fight or flight energy they have to add into that recipe in order to bring the best or the worst out of a situation. And by default, right there, the transformation we just spoke about just now, that's why Pluto is there. So Pluto touches Mars, or should I say Pluto helps influence Mars to add more of a darker, more of a mysterious and hidden transformative aspect to Mars. You know, because Aries don't necessarily have to be mysterious, because Aries that's cardinal fire. They're perfectly comfortable being seen and being noticed. They're very comfortable in their emotions. They're comfortable showing their emotions and displaying them. Cancers are too. Cardinal water. They're comfortable displaying how they feel. You know, they'll cry in front of you. They don't feel bad about that shit. You know what I mean? Because they see the power in it. Scorpios sometimes, they don't want you to witness their transformation. They want their transformation to be very stealthy. Very stealthy. So by the time they hit you, you don't know what the fuck hit you. You don't know what the fuck hit you. All you know is that something fucking hit your ass. So all you know, something hit your ass. And that's it. Scorpios like it that way. They prefer it that way. Makes their job easier. You know? So, this is a square, nonetheless, though, between Scorpio and Taurus, because one is still focused on the earth element. Now, earth takes a little bit of water, but sometimes Scorpio can get so deep into its way of feeling, and it can get so deep that it's not able to really function in anything else. You understand what I'm saying? Tauruses are just as bad. All the fixed signs are just as bad, because Tauruses sometimes can't understand an emotion or an action, for that matter, if they can't touch it, if they can't taste it. You know, it has to make sense for them. It must make sense for them. And all signs are not always like that. Some signs are able to make sense out of a situation by just kind of taking a step back and seeing things from a guy's eye view, from a bird's eye view, and being able to see what is, you know, they can see what's contributing to the solution, and they can pick it apart. You know, now both fixed signs can accomplish this, but the goal is going to be, especially since we're moving into Sagittarius, is to take a step back, learn how to be more mutable. Yes, you're allowed to maintain the things that you find that add stability to you, but you got to remember that if you pour too much fixation into it, because it's double fixed, if you pour too much into it, the cup can run over, the cup can overflow, and you know, you'll be negatively transformed from that, versus you looking at it from a higher spiritual aspect, and you understanding that, hey, you know what, let me step outside of my fixation. Let me actually find a way to be a little bit more mutable in these times, you know. And what are the people, places, and things, yes, still adding the stability, right, that help make things stable? What are the people, places, and things that help add stability, and find ways to to spread out, not be so tight, you know, because if you're so tight, you're not going to be able to communicate effectively. And that's really the goal, you know, because fixed signs, y'all could be so tight, you'll be so damn fixated, it can't function. It can't function. You want functionality. You want functionality. And sometimes, depending on, you have to assess where it is in your life, but if you're so fixated on your spouse, so fixated on your job, so fixated on the money, so fixated on this, so fixated on that, I can't shift my focus into anything else that will help me. Scorpios, same thing. I'm so fixated on my way of seeing those emotions, I can't take in any other perspectives until hell, fuck it, you know what I mean, forbid I get hit upside, you know, you get knocked upside your head with some shit, or you know, you knock somebody upside the head and you face consequences because of that, or whatever the case may be. Something transforms you emotionally to the point where you're forced now to have to see things from a different perspective. You're forced to have to see things from another one's point of view, or step back and try to figure out how to alchemize the energy. Maybe utilize a different modality instead of just being fixed on every fucking thing. Maybe I need to be more mutable, learn how to use my resources, know how to spread my wings a little bit more, know how to open up my mouth a little bit more. Hell, learn how to be a little bit more cardinal. Maybe I need to initiate brand new ways on how to feel about something. Maybe I need to initiate brand new ways on how to make something practical, and go about these new ways on and project them on the others, so that way we can all, maybe I can pull in some help, maybe I can pull in assistance, maybe I can pull in communication, maybe I can pull in resources, but I can't do that if I stay fixated. Okay, and thus this is part 2, explaining the square. Y'all be safe out here, because it's getting challenging, but hopefully by the time we go into Sagittarius, it'll be more of a mutable energy. It won't be so fixated, things won't feel as so tight and so transformative. You know, things will actually make a little bit more sense to you. You know, you won't feel so strenuous. You won't feel so stuck. You won't feel like you can't function. You feel me? And it's just like that.